Welcome to this month's Fire Chiefs video message for November 2017. This month in studio with me is Keith Burns from ECC. Keith, welcome and thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
Give me a little bit, and everyone else who's watching, a little bit of your history at ECC and what your role is with PSSM or P1.
So I've been assigned to ECC since January of 2003. I was there for the transition from the PSSI CAD to Altaris, and then from Altaris I've been there for off and on for about 12 years. For the PSSM system, change over to this new P1 CAD, I was one of the main provisioners for it, taking the new system and making it work just like the old one for the go live, making sure all the units and call types and responses were pretty much set up the same as before. Since go live, I've been working with Mike Strasbaugh and the rest of the team downstairs, making sure that the system works as expected, working out some of the unknown issues we didn't expect. And I'm rolling now into the GIS side of making sure that the maps work and get everybody there as fast as we possibly can.
So now we use P1. What does P1 stand for, and what is that?
P1 stands for the Motorola Premier One computer-aided dispatch system. It is a nationwide system run with in about 40-some dispatch centers across the country. Some from very small counties to places like us to LA County has it. Right. So it's definitely across a very wide group of people.
And almost all of the jurisdictions in the DC area are in the P1 or soon to be in the P1, right?
Yes, there are several of our cohorts. So Prince George's County has it. Fairfax is in the market for a new CAD, and
right.
They're looking into it. Prince William County. So yeah, so
right.
Lots of people around here do have it.
And what's the future vision for P1 as it goes?
So future vision for P1, we're always trying to make it better. We're always trying to make it work better for us, match our business processes as best as possible, but also to match our surrounding jurisdictions. We do have something coming up a little bit later on, CAD to CAD, where we can share information better, unit statuses and calls rather than just a phone call. So there's a vision to bring it to better suit us and everyone around us.
And that's CAD to CAD has been in place in Northern Virginia for several years now. Their jurisdictional interactions have been advanced for many years. And CAD to CAD, can you outline what that does for the dispatchers in Prince George's and Montgomery and what that reduces or eliminates?
Sure. So with CAD to CAD, what the idea is that we share information through the systems that we already use, unit statuses and calls that are calls for service that are in one or the other counties. So what will happen, the first step is we're going to share our information with Prince George's County. When a call comes up, they'll be able to recommend our units in their system and see their status. So if engine 702 is going to be first due to a house fire, they'll see that if their in quarters are on the air in their system before they even recommend it. We're still working on some of the specifics on how we are going to receive that call, whether it will be a call that drops into pending for us that we can accept or deny. Are they still going to call us knowing that they already have it? But there are, the process will be sped up by already knowing the information you're looking for when you request that resource.
And the units will still be, it's my intention, and there's actually a revised Fire Chief's General Order that's in the process of development, that when mutual aid jurisdiction, in this case Prince George's, as we talked about, when Prince George's dispatches a Montgomery unit on the 8 Alpha 1, that unit is allowed to check up on Alpha, advise that they're going, and unless Montgomery has something else pending, proceed on that response. That will still be the case.
Absolutely.
What we're going to do with CAD to CAD is ideally it'll reduce the amount of unit recommendations and rapid replacement or filling the assignments, because a unit that is recommended as available will actually be seen as unavailable and an appropriate recommendation provided. So it's clearly going to be a speeding process there. There was changes between NG, Northrop Grumman CAD, and the P1 CAD, one of which deals with resource allocations and how that impacts the folks in the field. Can you talk about that?
Certainly. So when we were provisioning this system, Chief Kinsley, at the time the ECC chief, wanted to change how we found units. His goal then and still today is to get the closest capable units to the incident. Right. So what we've done is we've changed going from dispatching unit types, an engine or a truck or a rescue squad to a call, to dispatching the capabilities that apparatus can bring. And one of the biggest that I definitely wanted to talk to today and share with everybody is how we find ALS-capable units, formerly what we called medics. When somebody was on the scene and said, hey, send me a medic unit, the expectation was they would get one of the transport units that had a paramedic on it, and that's what would show up. Right. With the capabilities now, a medic unit, as we would call them, is actually a transport unit that has an ALS capability on it. We also have the paramedic engines, paramedic trucks, chase cars, sometimes paramedic rescue squads. So sometimes those are a lot closer than a medic unit per se. So we have changed our delivery to match the capabilities. So when you ask for, I need an ALS resource, it could come on any type of apparatus. Right. We don't care as long as you get the correct capability and service to do that. We still have the capabilities to match the old unit types. We still have an engine as a capability, a truck, a squad, boats, swift waters, things like that. But the ALS capability, the medic, was the big one that changed, because we don't want to tie ourselves to one unit that may not be anywhere near you in what you're asking.
One of the most prolific examples is in the 2nd Battalion with our transition to ALS delivery on the engine companies and chase cars. The 2nd Battalion during the daytime does not have a medic unit anymore. And if you're in Station 11's area, as an example, and you say, give me a medic unit, you're potentially asking for Medic 701 or Medic 723 or Medic 401 when there's COTS and ALS providers much closer. And as you all worked through that transition change on the rapid intervention dispatch, the capability was the requirement once before of one medic unit. And that is met by the assembly method. Yes. Of a COT and an ALS provider. And that's one of the things that has had to change, as you said, relational to P1, but also relational to our change in deployment activities. As we continue further and further with the transition of disconnecting the medic from the COT, moving to all paramedic engine companies, all with chase cars in the core areas, you will not be getting a, quote, medic unit within Montgomery County's jurisdictional area. So that's a good point. Is there anything that a field provider can do to help the ECC when they want something? What should they ask for?
Certainly. So one of the things that we wanted to make sure that everybody gets is everything that they need. That's what we're here for. So when somebody wants something specific, say it. Say, I need, when they ask for ALS, one of the questions, depending on what they tell us, is going to be, is it an ALS-1 or ALS-2 response? Do you need 1 or 2 paramedics? The way we've set up P1 is in our recommendation screen. When you say, hey, I need an ALS resource, we have a recommendation screen that provides both a transport unit and an ALS unit. We provisioned it that way so that the assumption was any unit could ask for ALS, and we will make the determination if they already have a transport unit on the scene, we could ignore the transport in the recommendation and just send the ALS. But if it's an engine company that went out for a service call for a lift assist, and they say, hey, I need a medic unit, we already have in our recommendation screen the transport and the ALS resource. So ask for exactly what you want to have show up. If you say, I just need a transport unit, for example, there was a crash this morning that they asked for, I need a transport unit, and it was clarified, does it matter if it's BLS or ALS? And that's kind of the throwback to the old system of where we had an ALS or BLS transport. Hey, I need a transport unit. The clarification should have been, do you need an ALS resource with that or not? And that's where this transition has definitely changed, and we wanted to get that word out. So asking for exactly what you want to show up on the scene is what we're looking to get.
No doubt, no doubt. So part of the learning process of PSSM, P1 CAD is identifying problems or providing input for feedback to ECC and yourself, Chief D, and the others there. How is it that field providers can go about providing that input or asking those questions about a recommendation, a call, routing or mapping and such?
Certainly. So one of the processes we've put in place is called the telecommunications service request. We've been using it since before go live for other systems for people who wanted to request an active 911 or Everbridge account. And we've expanded it to cover CAD, GIS problems, MDCs, and the whole sundry of problems that we have through the tech operations community and ECC as well. It's on the quick links under the most used because it is something that is used quite frequently, and we'd like to increase the use. The TSR request captures all the information from the user, who they are, their email, and what problem they're having. Is it CAD? Is it a GIS issue because it's routing? Or is their MDC not working? And then they put in information about what's going on. Using this system provides us a way to track how many problems are coming in, where these problems are, who submitted them, and then internally we can track who has it been assigned to, has it been touched, has it been completed, how many hours have we spent working on these issues. So it's a very organized change management based process to capture this information, categorize it, assign it correctly, and then make sure that we get it fixed.
Right, and one of the things you talked about GIS and road segments is, one of the early on issues when we went into P1 is chunks of road, as that's what a road segment is, that was not connected. One of the most identifiable ones was Georgia Avenue. Georgia Avenue did not exist in the GIS data over top of the ICC. It was disconnected, and the routed path for Station 40 to get to Leisure World was across Emory, crossing over the ICC to Muncaster Mill, back to Norbeck, as an example. And it was a collaboration between the station folks and the ECC folks to say that recommendation didn't look right. Why weren't we sent on that call that was in our area, or we should have been due on that versus this station? So that's the type of information that a TSR is very beneficial in the appropriate path, because you're saying we're at Station 40, we used to be due to this, and the recommendation showed that it wasn't us or the such. And that helps you, because you identified a number previously. How many road segments is it, and how many points of data is it in the system?
It's almost too many to count. With 592 square miles of county, it's and I think it's something along the lines of 30,000 miles of roadway, counting neighborhoods and main streets. The task of running every single route from every single station to every single point is years in the making, and that's just not a feasible or manageable process for us. So we are very much relying on the field personnel who know their areas, who know that it should take them a certain amount of time to go this way, or they should be recommended to this area. Not just because of that's how it's always been, but hey, no, I really know that I'm closer to that. Can you take a look at it?
Or this is a better path to that, even though it's still my area and I'm recommended for that. This is the path I would take or have taken for years. Why did the computer suggest me to come around?
And that's a much
usually
more
you
feasible.
find what?
Well, so a lot of times what we've done is the routes are based off of a mathematical formula, length of the segment, speed limit assigned to it, and that determines how long it's going to take to travel that segment. And every single segment of roadway has what's called a cost. And so the system says, all right, I'm going from point A to point B, show every route and find me the one that has the lowest cost. And so if we find a route and say, hey, this is how we go because we can get there quicker, but the system shows a different way, we can go and evaluate and look at the segments and look at the routes and say, hey, it says, oh, we found the speed limit on Georgia Avenue is 50 miles an hour when it really should be 35. So that's why it's taking them that way to go shorter. And then, so that's another way we can identify issues and find them and fix them and move forward to better make the system recommend correctly.
So the folks in the field have a question about a recommendation, technology, the routing, the GIS, use the TSR. Do that just like if they have an MDC problem, just like if they have a FSA, stational learning infrastructure problem. Do a TSR, put as much data and information as possible in that TSR, and then someone's going to get back to them to resolve that, to look into that for sure, right?
Absolutely. As soon as it's assigned to a technician, a lot of times for the stuff they'll see it's assigned to me or someone else in the office, they get an email for every step of the process, when it's assigned, when it's in progress, and when it's completed. And when it's completed, they also get a survey. Did it meet their expectations as far as time, outcome, things like that. So it's a constant process that we do. It's not just we bring it in and make it a secret and fix it and not tell anybody. We want to get the word out and make sure we get the right information out to the field providers and things like that.
Right. And as Stacy did just a week or so ago, there's been changes with FSA, with updates to that, and those were all done with the intent of making the tools easier and more supportive of the folks in the station. So,
absolutely.
You had a question coming into this about my thoughts or my information that I would want to pass on. Can you tell me about your question?
So we're in the transitional period of going from uniformed firefighters at the fire side of the ECC to the police civilians taking over phone call and dispatch operations. What I wanted to bring to you is to get your thought of what is the most important part of the fire ECC that you would say to them that you would expect from them taking over our jobs, or not our jobs, but taking over our processes. What would you say is most important?
So it's several years ago, close to 5 years ago or so, when we started the civilians inside of ECC. They were technically, as you described them, fire civilians, and there was police civilians, and they were separate because they were hired by us. Earlier this year, we transitioned all of the civilians into the police infrastructure at ECC as part of that transition process. And we had a lot of stuff going on between P1, soon to be the new radio system, as well as the floor redesign at the boulevard. A lot of stuff changing, and the resources there, we had to stagger and do that implementation in a phase where we weren't overburdening the folks there. So that gotten a little bit longer than we thought. Going to take us longer as we transition through that, but there is highly capable folks up there that are doing that. Your question is what is my expectation of anybody who's sitting on the headset, sitting behind the console? What we would used to say would be CAD 91 and CAD 92, they changed, but what is the expectation of that person sitting there? It is that every person they're talking to on the phone or on the radio is a customer. And that customer needs timely information, timely support in different manners. The 911 person is a caller who is a customer, who needs help, who needs that calm, reassured, trained voice who can help the caller at the time of need and to help get help started quickly. We get questions frequently about EMD and why there's so many questions in EMD and what takes so long, where we keep constantly talking about the fact that EMD is fast when it needs to be fast. When you answer the question, is the patient breathing? No. The call is already pushed towards an ALS2, traditionally a 9 echo, and it's going to be dispatched while many more questions are being asked. When time is allowed, time takes the call to properly give it the right determinant, and then select it on. So EMD is fast when it needs to be fast for the patient, but that person needs the support of the 911 call taker, so to get that person the right emergency support at the time of need. Now let's talk about the folks on the other end of the radio. While our folks do call 911, call ECC, on the administrative lines, most of our interactions are via the radio. But we are also customers of the radio operations or the folks that are at ECC. And we need the person on the other end of that radio to know those right questions to ask, to know about the system, to know about the infrastructure, our apparatus as well as our organization, the county, geography, as well as the operations of MCFRS. To have that location right, to relay the information, to hear what you have said as a unit officer, ensure that it's relayed into the CAD record, ensure that it's repeated on the radio. Sometimes we're not capable of fully catching what's on the MDC or on the screen updates, and that has to be relayed, that has to be transmitted and communicated to that responding unit, because he or she in the front seat of the engine company at 3 a.m. is looking at streets, looking at hydrant information, and they need to know that information changed. But also filling requests. That person at ECC is a provider of resources. When engine 1 on the scene says, I want 10 medic units, we just talked about that specific example, but when they say I want 10 widgets, okay, how do I get them 10 widgets and get those in a timely manner? Because why they need the widgets isn't specifically always going to be understood, but the person on the scene is asking for a resource, fill that resource request and get those to them as fast as possible. So it's a customer basis support. And when we understand that we're providing resources and we're in a customer service environment, we will be able to support the 911 caller, we'll be able to support the field apparatus personnel in a timely fashion. Because that person on the phone or the radio is truly a lifeline at certain points of time. Is it a mayday? Is it a downed firefighter who is using the radio as his or her source of information exchange? And that is another point where that radio operator, 911 call taker, uniformed or civilian, is so critical in their composure, their calm, and their professionalism to tackle the job. And I believe it is going to be effective. I believe that we can operate in a unified center operated via civilian staff with a fire liaison or a fire supervisor up there as the tool or the arm of the duty chief, helping control the dispatch recommendations, and just ask that our folks understand. Got questions? Come up for a tour. You know, people are up there all the time in training, and as they get there, they get exposed to ECC, they see more of what that means or why that goes on. Your reason for coming here was for people to hear, understand, and use some of the graphics that you brought today to demonstrate the changes at ECC, not just a simple email. Learn more about what's going on there. So totally believe that the 911 operator, radio operator, is a supporter in that customer service chain to both the citizen resident in need as well as the provider on the apparatus, police car or fire truck. So that's what I'm thinking we're going to be as we progress forward with the consolidation activities. As it relates to ECC, other things to add or other things to pass on?
Pretty much, we're here 24/7. We run every call. We're here for the field providers. We're here for the public. We're doing our best. We don't make stuff up. So definitely, please. We want feedback. We need feedback to make ourselves better, to make it more appropriate. Right. We just ask that you use the systems that are in place. If you know something's wrong, tell us. Yeah, definitely, we want feedback. We need it. We need to hear from the field to make ourselves better, because we can. You can only make yourself so better in a mirror. You need somebody from the outside looking in. Okay.
Well, excellent, and thank you for coming, and appreciate Chief D's leadership and how we've transitioned back to the Boulevard and the new operations in P1 CAD. That clearly was a big deal, and it will and has improved our operations. So from the field perspective, Keith came today to tell you how to get information, how some of the changes has occurred with ECC, and how you can help them. As we move forward with any new technology implementation, it will be a learning curve and a changing environment. And we understand how that is a part of learning. Understand how you can support that, how you can provide feedback to that, and help the folks at ECC. November, the cold snap's getting ready to join us. We just went through, changed the clock, and check your detector. Make sure that anybody who you outreach with understands the importance of that smoke detector. Make sure they have that working smoke detector. We're going to be very soon, January 1, 2018, at the 10-year requirement with the new law kicking in, that all smoke detectors in Maryland must be the 10-year detector for those that are battery operated. Understand the value of what that smoke detector gets, early detection, early warning, and early evacuation of the house. So as we roll through the holiday seasons, alternative heat sources are coming. We're going to have those fires from space heaters and wood stoves, fireplace ashes, regretfully, as another example. So as we get through the fall, take care, be safe, and until next month.